Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Dungeons and Dopamine.
Ta-da!
Hello. Welcome to Dungeons and Dopamine.
Nope. Sorry. I got distracted thinking about how serious you sounded that I forgot I'm also here.
You want to know something really serious? This is episode 69.
Sorry, had to. That'll be the only 69 joke
At
the
all.
whole episode.
Yeah, otherwise we're done. There's actually not going to be any jokes the rest of the episode.
This is a serious episode.
It is pretty serious. I'm feeling very serious right now. I didn't think of a topic to talk about before the show began.
Dare you? So, does school start next week for you guys?
Yes.
Are you ready to have a third? Is she doing? So, is it third grade now? Or
Third grade.
Is she doing? Do they still do split classrooms at this?
Not
stage?
this year for third and fourth.
Okay.
Why are we like this?
I don't know. Years and years and years of friendship has caused this.
You've done this to yourself. That's what I hear from you.
Basically.
I have a weird topic. I didn't ask you if you guys are ready for school.
We are. So does starting school for you guys, does it feel like a relief? Like, okay, we're getting back into routine, everything's going back to normal a little bit, or is it like, I liked it better during the summer? I mean, obviously we like summer better.
Of course,
for
yes,
reasons.
yes. You know, it's really not a lot changes. The biggest thing is there's a little bit more structure to like bedtime. Mm-hmm. And that whole first week and maybe 2 weeks is very exhausting for her. She comes home and she's tired.
Cranky.
Yes.
Connor's always cranky the first week.
It's so overstimulating.
Mm-hmm.
This year they have half days all their first week, which
Really?
is great. And I mean, for us, she just goes to daycare,
Right.
so it doesn't matter.
That's right.
So
you guys do keep daycare through the summer too.
yes, we
so
do.
that makes
that
sense.
way she doesn't get bored. Otherwise, we couldn't live together. She'd have to live in the neighbor's house. But yeah, it's really not much of a change for us. It usually helps trigger like stricter tablet times.
Mm-hmm.
So,
We're trying to work on that with so last week we did screen-free week the whole week to try to get him back to the school idea. And I think we're going to try more. He has to like earn his time, screen time now. So he's either got to do a chore or do well in school or whatever to earn a certain amount of minutes or an hour or whatever. And then
an airhead. I'm just gonna commit. I can
just make the noise. And then, but his bus this year comes like 40 minutes earlier than it did last year. He's on the bus in the morning for a full hour before school starts.
That's torture.
Maybe, but like this is the kid that will also wake up early just so he can watch TV before he goes to school in the morning. So I'm kind of like, it'll definitely decrease what he can do in the morning because we have to be to the bus so early. So we're gonna decrease screen time that way, and then make him earn it the rest of the time, I think. But we're trying to show him that you can put something on the TV, you can put a show on, and then do other stuff. You can play with your Legos, you could clean your room, you could play with putty. Something, he still thinks he has to just like stare at it.
Right. And zone out and be all in.
Dude, you could get so many chores done while you watch this.
Yeah. And that's something, Carly used to be really good at that. She would sit, like, she'd turn it on and she'd watch videos or whatever, but she'd also do other things, art projects or cleaning or whatever. But we slowly but surely noticed that she's just more sucked into it now. And that's why the rule has gotten stricter. So we've always, we're a screen family, I guess, judge of that what you will, if this even makes it in. But we don't like that fully absorbed in thing.
That's the issue we have with Connor. Like, it's not so much that he is, because we love video games.
And TV's on all the time, or radio or whatever.
But he can't
disconnect.
Yeah.
Or
like, you have to say his name like 3 times. You have to basically yell it to even get him to pull out of it. And we'll catch him like he'll try to like do stuff, but he'll like carry the iPad
Yes.
with him, and then he's like trying to put his shoes on, but he's staring at the screen. I'm like, Connor.
Dinner takes 3 hours
Yeah.
because they sit and don't touch their food for an hour and then realize it's still there and start eating, but after 4 bites they've forgotten it's there again, and
It just, that brain suck.
Yeah.
I mean, and it can be an addiction.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't want him to have to.
I don't want her to struggle with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of our new thing, and if that doesn't work, we'll move on from that. Or if we have to get stricter about like non-school days, we will.
Right.
But we're gonna try this first. Now, super cool transit. Oh, okay. Yes. Speaking of television,
Yes.
I want to tell you. I'm not gonna preface this with anything. I'm just gonna get going.
Yay.
I'm gonna tell you about something on the BBC. I have to find it first. Here it is. Okay. I don't know if you know this, but I have a soft spot for the BBC, which is British television because of Doctor Who.
Yes.
It runs really differently than in America. I don't know if it's still the same, but even just as much as a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, it was a very strict regulated programming, and they do their commercials differently. They're shorter. They don't interrupt the program. They play before, they play after. They do not interrupt their program. It's just a little different.
That, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's really strange. And they have time slots for things. So, Halloween night in 1992, families came home from, all the, like, revelries and trick-or-treating and whatever British people do for Halloween. And they settled in, and traditionally at 9 o'clock, kind of settled in and you watched the BBC. There was always a TV show or a movie or something on. People turned on the TV, and a pretty spooky program began playing. It was called Ghost Watch, and it looked like it was a live TV show, and like kind of a live special show.
Okay.
Really interesting. The program followed Pamela Early, Pam, as we'll call her through the rest of this, and her daughters Suzanne and Kim, and showed their home where they claimed they were being haunted by a ghost. The ghost, they had named him Mr. Pipes because he would bang on the pipes. So there you go.
All right.
Good reason to call him Mr. Pipes. They also said that he would, just occasionally possess Suzanne and cause her harm. No big deal.
No big deal.
So they're kind of showing this, and in the studio, not at the house, they have a guy named Michael Parkinson, and he is kind of the big announcer of the show. He's like the host. And he announces that they're going to be following this family this whole night. It's going to be a paranormal investigation. He has a parapsychologist. She is a woman, and for the longest time while I was reading and looking into this story, I did not know that. And then it kept throwing me off because it was saying she said blah blah blah, and I'm like, who said that?
The ghost?
Exactly. So she is a woman, and that's not going to matter to you guys, but it matters to me.
It made a difference.
And then there was a co-presenter named Mike Smith, who, I guess this is a thing, I don't know if you remember this, but like telecall or
Like the fundraising?
Yes.
Yes.
They would, flash the phone number on the screen, and then they'd have people sitting there answering the phone calls from
People
callers.
are here right now to take your call.
And that's sort of what he was doing. The BBC had put up a number, like, hey, call us if you want to comment or talk about this, or if you know anything that could help or help this family or whatever. So they also had, at the home with the family, there's a sound and camera crew, and then there's a man named Craig Charles, and Michael, the big hosty guy, his wife is there. Her name is Sarah Green. So Sarah goes into the house with the family and is talking to them, while Craig goes and talks with neighbors. So Pam, the mother, tells Sarah, the reporter, or whatever you want to call her, that she's tried to sell the house and that she can't get rid of it. and that the banging on the pipes began about 1 year earlier. At this point, they cut away, and the doctor in the studio shows a video of an event that had happened in the girl's bedroom. And this was a few months earlier, something just kind of crazy and paranormal and sort of spooky. And calls start pouring into the studio saying that they saw a man in the footage. They saw a ghost man in the footage. So Kim, the little girl, sorry, I couldn't remember who Kim was. I was staring at it. I'm like, is that supposed to be Pam?
You're like, where'd she come from?
And I know this story. I'm telling you guys. Kim explains who Mr. Pipes is and that he lives in the cupboard under the stairs. So he's Harry Potter. And then explains that the family has boarded up that door under the stairs. At this point, a doctor from New York calls in and talks about how easily all of this camera footage could have been faked, and says, I don't believe it. This is totally fake. So then they kind of show Craig talking to the neighbors, and the neighbors talk about a child disappearing and children being hurt and a dog being killed nearby. And he even speaks to a guy who actually went to the house and tried to perform an exorcism, but failed. Soon, the visitors, the crew, start hearing banging in the house, and Sarah starts going to check on the girls in their room, but is stopped by the crew in the studio. They saw Susan get up out of bed, and she never showed up on the landing where she was supposed to show up. So they check the camera footage and see that it's actually Susan who is banging on the pipes. Suddenly, everyone's like, oh, this is fake.
Right.
Why are they wasting our time? What, this whole family had you'd think they'd have done a better job screening them or whatever. So
they just gave themselves away.
Exactly. So the people in the studio are kind of trying to talk through it, and they're like, okay, it's fake. But back in the house, the cameraman and Sarah start hearing meows, but that they can't locate, which is super weird. Mm-hmm. And they decide to eventually go confront Susan and find her passed out on the ground with scratches on her face. At this point, a call comes... Well, I don't know if it was at this point or if this is just when they're talking about it. A call comes in and informs them that in the house that they're in, there used to be a woman who was a childminder, who is exactly what it sounds like, because I had to Google it, because British terms. It's a daycare provider,
right.
Or like a babysitter.
Not somebody that reads child's minds, or
I was like, is this like someone who beats them into
children?
Submission or what? I don't understand. So they lived in this house, and this is when the family and the crew, especially Sarah, is urging them that it's just time to leave. They've got Susan covered in scratches, and they're like, this is not cool. As the camera pans across the room for them to leave, you can see a man standing in frame. That goes by really quickly, and then they're all together, and the banging noises begin again. The banging gets so violent that a photo frame falls off the wall and breaks. Susan, this is the literal most terrifying part. Susan cowers behind an armchair and starts speaking in a really deep voice. It's like gravelly and deep, and it can't be her voice. Her mother is sitting in front of her and sternly telling her, stop it. Stop it right now, Susan. You need to knock it off. It's really disturbing.
Oh my goodness.
So, sorry, trigger warning. Sarah, at this point, starts hearing cat's meowing again and traces it to the cupboard under the stairs. She thinks, maybe there's a cat in here. Maybe that's what all of this is. Starts prying the boards off when a mirror falls over and lands on the sound man who's following her around. Kim starts screaming. The broadcast flickers out for a moment, and when it comes back up, Sarah and the crew are seen just playing with the family in the living room.
Oh, they were like, okay, everything's fine.
Exactly.
Let's just get the cards out.
Now it's claimed that via phone call that man used to sub this house to his nephew, who turned out to be a child molester and was possessed by the woman who was a child minder, and he hung himself under the stairs, and then his cats ate his body.
Ooh.
This is when Michael in the studio looks at the broadcast and realizes that the picture frame that had fallen off the wall is now actually hanging up on the wall, not broken. He starts to piece together that this image, this whatever's showing on the camera right now, is old footage. He believes that the ghost has somehow interfered and interrupted the feed. That's when the power goes out in the studio. The feed continues to run. The family and the crew we can now see are evacuating the house, but Susan has gone missing because Susan is apparently the whole problem here.
Leave her behind.
Sarah goes back in to look for her and is somehow led back to the cupboard under the stairs. She opens the door, enters, the door slams behind her, and you can hear her screaming and cats. In the studio, Michael is wandering around toward the camera. There's chaos going around behind him. The crew is leaving. They're running out. Michael is wandering toward the camera, speaking in the same deep, low voice that Susan was speaking in, denying the stories about the child molester and the child minder, and just denying all these. And at the very end, he says, "Fee, fi, fo, fum," to the camera. And that's when the broadcast ends. And credits roll. Because this was just a show. But the BBC did not tell anyone that this was not real. It sounds terrifying. I've only seen clips. And it was so disturbing to me that I had to turn on the Viva guys and watch reruns of them playing D&D because I was freaked out.
That's...
So, of course, I'm not just going to end it there. I can't just tell you that story and that's all.
Your turn.
Fun.
Wasn't that cool?
So, the credits roll. It was a show. Apparently, at the very beginning of the broadcast, it very quickly flashed that this was a pre-recorded work of fiction. But that wasn't enough for people to know. Like, most people didn't see it.
Right. I mean, I don't ever pay attention to
the
beginning of... You're usually, like, getting stuff gathered up or, like, finishing whatever you were doing. I just finished my little laundry.
Yep. So, I did tell you the phone number flashed up on the screen of this, and that was true. It ended up just being the basic BBC call-in number. So... as soon as the show ended, let's rewind a little bit. During the show, people actually were calling in, and when they called in, they were informed that this was a work of fiction, and were encouraged to leave their own ghost stories on this recording. The idea, people think that this was supposed to be a series.
Okay.
And they were going to use other people's horror stories, ghost stories, whatever, to create new episodes. Mm-hmm. But... when the show ended, the BBC was besieged with phone calls to the point that it was like breaking the phone lines. Some people were irate, some were terrified, and some were like, wow, that was amazing.
Go save those children.
Yeah, exactly. Michael Parkinson's elderly mother was one of the callers because she was pissed.
Right?
It is estimated that they received 1 million calls that night, which is astronomical.
Right.
I don't even know how anyone got through because of that volume of calls. So, British tabloids the next day were highly criticizing the BBC. I mean, and as they should. Yeah. This was 1992, remember? This wasn't the kind of thing that happened then.
And even, like... Unsolved Mysteries or like the Twilight Zone, I feel like the whole time it played... Like, every time it came back from commercial or something, it'd be like, this is a dramatization.
Yes.
Or these scenes
are... based on true events or something like that.
Yeah.
So, they criticized the like disturbing nature of some scenes, and this was 1992. I saw a grainy YouTube video clip of that part with Susan. It terrified me.
Really?
And maybe because it was grainy 1992 footage, but...
And you were wanting to be scared.
Yes, and I was home alone, but it's really freaky. And they're saying that and the part where Sarah gets into the cupboard, and then the very end when that man seems to be possessed, those are all really gruesome. They're all very... I don't know the right word. It's just on the tip of my tongue, but... They're scary.
It's not like a silly ghost story.
Exactly. So...
It would be like if they made the movie Saw.
Yes, and didn't tell.
Portrayed it on the news.
It gave me slight Blair Witch vibes, but it also gave me huge Orson Welles' The War of the Worlds.
Yep, that's what I was going to say, too.
And why didn't they learn from that? Hello?
Right? We've done this once, you guys.
Exactly.
We know better.
So, the whole idea of this and the whole outcry actually did have some serious reaching issues. Psychological traumas, I would say. One 18-year-old was watching it, and he did have learning disabilities, and he was 18, but at a mental age of probably like 13.
Okay.
He had watched it with his parents, who said the whole time he just seemed like hypnotized by it. He ended up hanging himself.
Oh.
The home that he lived in had a faulty central heating system, and it caused the pipes to knock. He had a suicide note that said, "If there are ghosts, I will be with you always as ghosts." And they said this was caused directly by the BBC airing this. There were approximately 30 more complaints of serious mental harm done by the program. The Broadcasting Standards Commission tried to claim that this was beyond this was beyond them. They didn't want to look at the BBC for this. And the High Court said, "No, this is your job. Do something about
what
this.
You're here for."
So they ruled that the program was excessively distressing and graphic, and that it had aired too soon after the 9 o'clock slot where people would be watching. So Sarah, the woman in the story, was a television host to a kids show on Saturday mornings. So seeing her, parents did not know that this was not going to be safe for their children.
Right. They were like, "Oh, look, it's our favorite."
Yeah.
It'd be like putting Steve from Blue's
Or Miss
Clues
Rachel.
in a horror movie.
Exactly.
And putting it on TV without a warning that it's a movie.
Exactly. So that made parents really upset. The producers stood their ground for a time and said this was naturally a drama slot, and if we had put any more obvious disclaimers up, it would have really ruined the suspense of the story. Dude!
Right!
There was a medical journal published in 1994 that talked about 2 cases of PTSD in children due to the program.
Holy cow.
4 more cases were brought to light after that article was released. Thankfully, the cases appeared to be fairly easy to take care of. They were brief. Children ended up being okay later on. But I heard this story due to a video I was watching of like crazy things that happened on TV. And like I said, it was the last one out of like 4 or 5. They weren't all spooky. Some of them were just like, I don't know if you remember many years ago, a man I think he was a Korean man, and he got killed by some police by being knocked down. He was a photographer.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a really big deal. And they talked about that and that kind of stuff. And then this one came on, and it just broke my brain. It was awful. So I wanted to...
Wow.
I didn't want to trick anybody, but I wanted you to feel the way that the poor people watching this felt. And I also just wanted to mention that it was really well done, obviously. And this was during a time where like reality TV and paranormal story stuff wasn't happening yet.
Right.
There wasn't investigations on television. There was no Shellfish Baggins. It was really trend-setting for its time. And that's even more upsetting because...
And definitely, it was pre-Blair Witch Project.
Yes.
Because that came out in the, it must have been late 90s, early 2000s.
I mean...
Yeah, I mean,
groundbreaking.
Orson Welles.
Yeah.
That was... Wow.
Isn't it terrifying? I mean, and like I said, I'm sorry if you're mad at me because I told the story without telling you it was fake. I'm the ghost story person, so I figured even if it was real, it was a good ghost story.
It would have been scarier if I would have told it.
Right? Especially like your own experience.
Right.
But
I'm going to tell you this crazy story.
This happened to me and Susan and Kim and Pam. Who are they?
Surprise.
But I just thought it was kind of wild.
And I wish I knew more about British TV.
Right.
Why didn't you give me time to research this, Jessica?
I didn't even want to tell you about it because...
I feel, and maybe this is an American thing, like the TV rating system. And
Yeah.
even in the 90s, it was we still had the TV rating system. So it would have been like, there would have been something in the corner that would have been like, this is not appropriate for audiences under the age of 16 or something.
And they wouldn't have put Blue's Clues on there.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
And then really the far-reaching.
I wonder if... So, you probably don't. It'd be really cool if you did know this. I wonder if there have been any other like TV shows where they did studies on whether or not there were lasting trauma.
Oh, that's a great
Like,
potential topic,
Do
though.
they study the Saw movies and
Right.
see if they cause PTSD in people? Or was it just because it was such a big deal and because it went to court, like,
Right.
that's why they studied it?
And the funny thing is, I could see it going like one of two ways if they did this now instead of back then. One, we're all so burnt on reality television. We now know that reality television is absolutely, entirely, and completely fake. Even the Ghost Adventures and Shellfish and all of that.
Everything is scripted.
It's all scripted. It's all fake. They have people hiding and knocking on pipes and doing all that kind of stuff. So we would all either be like, wow.
Another scary movie. Great.
Exactly. Or they would get sued to death because of what they did. Truly, it was kind of cruel.
Probably both.
Yeah.
It'd probably, because it'd be like internet drama galore.
Yes.
It'd be like split 50-50. Are you a ghost story supporter or are you not? Do you think this was detrimental to children or was it just a fun story for TV? And less people would probably see it because we have streaming television
Right.
and all of that.
It's not gonna be...
It's not like it would show up on Netflix.
Yes.
Or if it did show up on Netflix, we'd be like, oh, another Netflix show.
It's not a whole country sitting down and watching the same broadcast at the same time.
It's not everybody sitting down for TGIF on Friday.
Exactly. Oh, wait, no, commercials. I gotta go to the bathroom really quick. I also did see, and I don't know if this is still true to this day, BBC has never replayed this. Duh. It has been available occasionally on different streaming services, and now that the internet is so broad and vast, I'm sure you can find it anywhere. But yeah, I had a really hard time figuring out a topic this week. And then I was thinking, and I kept researching different little bits of different things, and then I'm like, man, nothing is interesting to me. And then all of a sudden I remembered this and went, bingo. And I was pretty excited. I was pretty excited to tell you guys. I was pretty excited to share this story. And I think it's really interesting.
That's crazy.
And terrifying.
Yeah. And ridiculous. Come on, people. Interesting.
It makes you mad. I mean, I'd have been upset had I sat down with Carly and now she's not sleeping in her room for the next 6 weeks because of it.
I mean, but at some point also, wouldn't you have been like,
yes,
maybe this isn't the show for tonight?
She'd have been kicked to her room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it. Good job.
Thank you. I really didn't want to share anything about it with you before I started talking about it because I keep bumping the table in front of me. You guys might hear that, and because I don't know if I can cut it out. But yeah. Anyway, I don't know about your topic either.
Good. And you never will.
You just leave.
All right. So I have a topic. Kind of.
I don't know what it is.
We know that I like to use this podcast selfishly to focus on things that I either like. I think my last topic or the one just before that was about composting because I need to learn how to compost. So why not teach everybody how to compost? And depending on how this episode goes, this might become kind of a series, or it might die here. Let's see. But the basics of it is, we've talked quite often. We're both super busy right now. We have a lot going on. I've talked about I'm starting a company. I'm working on giving up my position at the township so that I have more time for my company and so that I don't have to be a clerk anymore because it's awful. I still don't feel like I have my shit together. Sorry for the bad words, but that's putting it bluntly.
How dare you?
So I am starting a Bree Gets Her Shit Together series.
Okay.
And it won't happen every week, but hopefully on a regular basis, depending again on how this goes. And could cover things like, I've talked about different ADHD topics or brain topics, but also like life hacks. And what I'm starting with is kind of reviews of different apps or organizational systems that are, let's say, virtual organizational systems.
Okay,
I'm not
sure.
gonna review a new set of drawers that I got to store stuff in. Mostly because, like I said, I need to get my shit together, but also I find these organizational systems to be very overwhelming. But I've heard a lot. I even went to TikTok for this one. I've heard a lot about how helpful it can be, especially for people with ADHD or other neurodivergencies, to kind of help not only keep things together, but just lots of different like tips and hacks and stuff that you can do to make it better for brains like ours. So I wanted to start with let's keep my notes open.
You're gonna have the same problem I had, where you're gonna get too excited about your topic and get
just gonna
too forward.
Go off note and end up somewhere weird. I wanted to start with this because I need it, number one, but also I know it is a habit or a problem for people with ADHD. We have a planner issue. Not like we have issues planning, which we definitely do, but we have a tendency to think that a new planner or a new system will fix our lives. And if you're anything like me, I have a whole like planner graveyard in my basement right now with all the different cool planner systems I bought, and like stickers and pens and dividers, and it was, the Erin Condren planners where you can get all the different accessories. And this is like that, but it's online, which is it's virtual, which is important to me because I am pretty much in front of a computer all day, every day, unless I am driving or going to show houses. And I use a desktop at work. I have a tablet laptop at home and a regular laptop at home. I have my cell phone, I have tablets. So I wanted something that I can keep all in one system that doesn't involve me having to drag a planner around, because I will either leave it somewhere or never take it out of my bag so it never gets used, or leave it at home and then I don't have the information I need.
I look at mine a lot because I do actually use a planner, and fairly successfully, but
which is impressive.
Thank you. But I look at it sometimes and it's too big to take with me. But it needs to be that big so I can take notes and, so on and so forth. And it can be really tricky.
And it can be so hard to find the right planner. I also have never found a planner that really checks all the boxes and does everything I needed to. But I thought maybe finding like an online or a virtual organizational system might help me with that. You've heard me talk in the past about Evernote, which I until now have been using pretty regularly. I paid a lot of money for it for the yearly subscription, so I felt like I had to.
That does help.
But I have had issues with it. And this episode, or the rest of this episode, I'm kind of going to talk about Evernote and a website called Notion, Notion, not to be confused with Motion, which comes up on Facebook a lot as it's kind of a planner app for people. I wanted to look further into these because like I said, I've been using both of them kind of a little bit, but I know that there's a lot of functionality there that I haven't had time to dig into, and I think a lot of people probably don't because we're all busy. We all have things to do. And I do want to say that can be a downside to programs like this. They can be so customizable, and they can have so much to them that, especially with ADHD, it can almost become like, the dopamine hit you get when you get a new planner and you spend all the time like with your new colored pens and you write in all the months and the dates and your like birthdays and anniversaries, and you put your stickers in and you get it all pretty and like ready to use.
I didn't know this was going to be a personal attack.
You could have the same problem with these types of apps. You could spend so much time looking up videos, looking at TikTok, going to YouTube, and seeing all the different cool things that people have done with it. You could get stuck at that point, which is what almost happened to me. So I made it into an episode so that I would have to push through. So I'm looking for, when I say organizational system, I need something that can be my calendar. It can be my, list taking, so that I always have a million, like a to-do list, a grocery list, a shopping list, and then my multiple to-do lists for being clerk and real estate and my house and all of those things. I also like having a place. Something I've used Evernote for is to like take a picture of a business card and store it in that system so that I don't have a billion business cards laying around. I had also used Evernote in the past for taking pictures of Connor's artwork from school.
Oh, yeah.
So it has a really cool feature. It'll scan instead of just take the picture, so it looks more like artwork when it gets saved into the computer, and then you can toss the physical piece of paper and not feel like a monster.
So much comes home. So much.
And then I also wanted something I could create systems with, or organization systems to help increase my business. So keep me on track with marketing, help me plan a content calendar, help me manage all of my clients and my appointments and things like that. And if this sounds like a lot of functionality to have in one program, it 100% is. I honestly didn't think I was going to find it all together, but Evernote and Notion do kind of meet these goals. So what these are is they are online organizational systems or virtual organizational systems, and especially Notion it's like using small database subsets, and it's all stored on basically a blank slate dashboard. So you open up the app, whether it's Evernote or Notion, and you've got a blank page, and then you can place different modules on this page that help you with a planning dashboard. So you can have maybe you have a planner page with like your calendar for the day, and you have you can do like a little post-it note scratch pad next to that for taking notes. Personalize your home page with like quick links for things that you might go to often, or things that you might need often. And like I said, I started with Evernote, and it had most of the functionality I was looking for. My biggest issues were costs. It is an expensive program if you want to use it for anything more than like the very basic. I just had trouble, like it wouldn't sync often, or it was almost like it got bogged down and it would shut down and I would lose stuff, which is why I started looking around for something else. But the other big problem I had with Evernote is I was duplicating a lot of things, because it's its own program that doesn't necessarily sync to anything. So I could create my own planner in Evernote, but it didn't connect to my planner that or my Google Calendar or whatever I use to already put my appointments in. So I would have to duplicate. I'd have to put it into my phone if I had an appointment to make sure it goes to my calendar that I get reminders on, and the calendar we have at home. And then I'd have to also put it in my Evernote to have all my notes there. So I've been struggling with this for a while, and I've been mostly using it just for the episodes and keeping track of everything there. Sometimes I would open it up to take notes. Again, I like it because I could do all that on my phone, and then I could go to my computer and open Evernote on my computer, and all of those same notes and everything are still right there. So I could work on my episode at home and then go to work and open it on that computer, and everything is still, it syncs so that it catches up on whatever I did on whatever device. However, Notion, this is the one I got really excited about and ended up doing this whole episode deciding on this. Notion took everything Evernote was starting and I think made it better. It will sync with your Google Calendar now, or I don't know if it has like iPhone functionality or if you're using a Mac. I don't know what the functionality is there. Sorry, creative people that use that stuff. I'm on a Samsung and a Windows computer. It will sync to your Google Calendar. So I was able to create, and I will post these pictures when the episode airs, but I was able to create this dashboard so I can add my own pictures and make it personal to me.
I mean, it looks comfortable because it reminds me of Facebook. Like, it reminds me of my Facebook homepage.
Yep. And then when it loads, there would be my usual calendar there. So I have that. I could open this up when I get up in the morning, go right to my dashboard. I've got my calendar there so I can see what my day looks like. And then I've got different links to, I haven't personalized all of this yet, but you can put links in for like a brain dump. So if you just need a place where you're going to put notes in. If you're doing a gratitude journal or positive thoughts every day, you can put a page in there and you just open that and keep it all there. You could do meal planning and you create a template for meal planning. Those were there when I opened this. But then you can also they have all these different functions and modules you've put in. So these are called toggle buttons. And it's basically, I have like 4 to-do lists, and it's all of my stuff that I do every day. So my morning routine, like take my pills and feed the dogs. And
I'm so glad I'm not the only one that has to put dogs like
yeah. And your evening tasks, making sure you brush your teeth and take your nighttime med and put the kid to bed and all of those. And you can save them in these little toggles so that they're hidden most of the day, but I can just open it up in the morning and start clicking my to-do list.
Which seems helpful if you get overwhelmed by a to-do list.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I look at a full day schedule, I get like anxious about how much I need to accomplish that day, even though some of it is like 3 seconds worth of stuff and I just have to remember it.
Even so, for a long time we were both using Finch, and we talked very heavily about Finch and how it wasn't a very overwhelming app, but if you really wanted to use it to organize things or like get on track, if you put all of your to-dos in that app, it just shows up as one long list.
Yes.
And it can be overwhelming. So this gives me the functionality to keep these smaller lists of things that I know I have to do every day, but I can hide them so they're not staring me in the face. I don't need to be thinking about my evening list when it's morning.
Right.
And again, this also keeps it all in one place, whereas an issue I was having before is I was looking for phone apps that could do all these different things. So I had an app, like Finch even, that I would start in the morning to do my morning routine and like get my day started, and I'd have to do all that. But then I'd also have to have my reminders app for like stuff that I had to remember, or my tasks app for my to-do list for today. And with this is all on this dashboard. So it's all there right first thing in the morning when I wake up. I can look at it and plan my day. But the other cool thing is that, and this is true for Evernote, but it's much more user-friendly, I think, in Notion, other people can create templates, which you can then search for and add into your program. So you remember when Word first came out, you used to be able to, like, if you needed a resume, you could go into Word and look at the Word resume template and click that, and you could use that as a base for your functionality. Or you can do the same thing in Notion, but they're all user created, or there are a couple Notion created ones. And people have already come up with some really great templates. There are already like real estate agent templates that people have created. There are ADHD friendly templates that have been created. It is a system where, kind of like Canva, where a lot of it is free, but some of it you have to pay for.
Sure, okay.
But I believe it, from what I could tell, it goes to those individual creators. So you might be paying for this template, but it's going to the person that created it, not just your Canva membership or whatever.
Sure.
So using those templates, I was then able to, like I said, I was able to find a real estate agent one. And because Evernote is using database setups, which can take a little bit to actually understand how to use them, I can also create, so it shows up on my page as just like a link to a document, but what it actually can turn into is a database of all of my real estate clients. So there would be a link on my dashboard to real estate clients, and you open it up and it would be a full dashboard or a full page of all of my real estate clients, and I can put in, whatever data I want about them based on how I set my form up. And you can keep these forms as templates, so it's easy to just click and put in all of the same information for each new client. And then I have a whole database of clients and the houses they've seen and their preferences and how much their house sold for or whatever, all in my one app that is everywhere I go.
So, out of curiosity, just because I know this is a function in some stuff, if you enter my phone number because you have me as client, if you click on that, will it automatically call?
I believe so. If I was using it on my phone or like a tablet or something that had service, I could even make, because it then can also sync with like my Gmail functionality and some other stuff, I can make it so it would send me a reminder to send an email at whatever stage and send this off. I can set it up for teams. You can use it so that you can invite people to your team. So when I have a real estate team, I could have my forms saved on there, send them to like a Alden Breeze dashboard, and any form they need could be right there. And I could automate it if I get really good at understanding these computer things, so that it's set up, if you click this button, this is automatically going to open. You're going to put this information in and it sends it to this other database that then adds it to this. It's really incredible. And there are different packages, of course. There's professional, or there's the free one, which actually has a ton of functionality, even up to like inviting people to join, like 10 people can join your team and you can collaborate on things. But even the most expensive package was only $25 a month. And that one is even HIPAA compliant. So you would be able to use it, like insurance companies and medical professionals would have enough security within that program to use it, which makes me think that it's probably secure enough for real estate. But just in case, like, I'll be careful about what kind of information I'm putting into this database. It would be like name, some contact information. I'm not putting clients like social security numbers or bank information or anything in there. Other things, so that's kind of where I had to stop because hyperfocus, and I don't want this episode to be 6 hours long. And also just because I do want to be able to use it for a little while before I give like a full review on whether or not I think it's useful. But that's what I've got set up for. I also have a Dungeons and Dopamine dashboard set up, obviously, that will have all of my episodes on it. And of course I can create a template. I could just click a button and then something would, a new page would pop up, and it could literally remind me, like, here's my episode title, here are the pictures and the files that I want to include when this episode goes live, here's all of the actual writing, here are the links I used with the information, and then all of that information would be right there. There are podcast episode templates people have already created that help with the stuff that you take care of, like when did we record this episode, when is it going to air. There's all different types of planner views, so you could do monthly planners, weekly, daily, hourly. You could get crazy. You can do recipes and meal planning. You could make lots of different habit trackers with the different, check marks. And be one other functionality that Notion had that I haven't found in Evernote, it will take, because it's using databases, it will take all this data that you're putting in, and you can use it later to make charts or graphs or see how it all worked out. So if you were tracking how many days you exercised in a year, by the end of the year, if you tracked it all right, you could press a couple buttons and have actual data on, okay, well, I worked out this many days, or, I see that I didn't work out on these weeks because of my cycle, or you could make that all into actual viewable data, which I think is incredible.
You could also, you could go really far with that if you had medical symptoms. You needed, you could write down what you ate. And I always find if I start doing that kind of thing, once I'm feeling better and stop writing stuff down, I lose it. And it would all be saved right there. And you can color code with different, again, because we're using databases,
You can color code with different tags. You can put all of this into the database that you create on Notion, assign it different colors. You can put, you can use emojis, you can use all pictures, all these different things, and it will save it all right there for you. Instead of using 6 different apps, you have all of the information right there. And again, people have already been doing this. They've already created the templates for you. People use it for book writing, you know, keeping track of characters, keeping track of worlds and languages. It's like having the coolest 5-subject 5-star notebook from when we were kids and being able to keep it all together. So you can flip to whatever section you need while you write your stories, and everything's still right there, able for you to see it. So I'm going to play with it some more. I'm going to review it some more. I'm going to keep comparing and contrasting to Evernote, mostly because I think Evernote was like the original one and the one maybe people started with and maybe didn't like, so they gave up. One functionality that was with Evernote that I have not tried or seen with Notion yet is it was easy to, you could like take a picture of something and email it to this special Evernote email address, and it would automatically like put it into your Evernote files. So if you had, I didn't use it for real estate. I maybe could have used it like if I needed documents, I could email them to this thing and it would put it right in there for me. So I will keep reviewing it. I will check back in a few weeks and let everybody know if I even used this dashboard page that I spent so much time on, or if I immediately lost all the dopamine because I got it done and never looked at it again.
All right. I look forward to your report. I myself have been trying to get a little bit more organized, and I mean, it's literally not going to happen until my upstairs is done, but it'll be good to have you test it before I'm ready for it, so that I'll know.
Let me just handle this for you.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
Really taking one for the team. I'd give you a dum-dum, but they're in my drawing, not in real life.
So
and they're
disappointing.
all different sizes, so I'm not even sure. Maybe they're Tootsie Pops. Anyway. Let's find the closing stuff.
Super easy for me to find now that I have my super easy dashboard on my Notion. I saved it as a hot link right here.
No more of the 10 minutes of searching on the
of us going, what's the next line?
I know it's here. Actually, that stuff's comedy gold. This is Dungeons and Dopamine Podcast.
You can listen to us anywhere you stream podcasts.
I thought you were going to leave me hanging like at the beginning.
Just stare at you.
Support us on Patreon.
Please.
www.patreon.com/dungeonsdopamine.
You can also find us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit.
Yay. You can reach out to us on any of those, as well as at dungeonsdopamine@yahoo.com.
And we are... Dungeons and Dopamine is edited. I am not edited.
You are, technically.
Kind of.
Not your life, but your words during this podcast.
True. Dungeons and Dopamine is edited and published by Argyle Pigeon Productions.
Yes, that was great.
Beautiful.
I nailed it.
Best pigeon ever.
Best pigeon ever. And on that note, thank you. We love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.